Okay, so this video is going to talk about measures of spread, but before we do that, we're going to look at the five key statistics that we can use to summarize data. The first you're already familiar with, that is the median or the middle number. And that's the middle number when we've got a set of ordered data. So if you look at the 15 pieces of data we've got here, we're starting at 18, going up to 53. They're already in order for us, so the first part of our job is done. So the middle number, if we've got 15 pieces of data, is going to be the 8th piece of data. So if I count into the 8th piece, I'll get the middle number, which is 26. So the median here is 26. Now that median splits our data into two halves, basically. So what it means is that 50% of my data is less than 26, so 50% of the numbers are less than 26 in value, and 50% of the numbers are more than 26 in value. What the lower and upper quartile do is they further split your data into quarters. Okay, so the median splits your data into halves, but the lower quartile will give you the basically the median of the lower 50% of data. So you're basically looking at the middle of the first half of your numbers. So between 18 and 25, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces of data. So 22 is the middle piece there. Okay, so the lower quartile, which we often write as Q1, that is 22. Okay, so that tells us that 25% of the data is less than 22, but 75% of the data is more than 22. The upper quartile does the same thing, but now for our upper 50% of data. So we're looking for the middle number here, which will be 34. So the upper quartile, okay, is 34. So again, that tells us that 75% of the data is going to be a value less than 34, and 25% of it is going to be more than 24. So basically your lower and upper quartile are just dividing your data into quarters or 25%. The minimum and maximum value, hopefully pretty self-explanatory. The minimum value of this data set is 18, and the maximum value is 53. So we're going to use our 5-figure summary to calculate two measures of spread. The first you're probably familiar with, which is the range, and that's just the difference between the minimum and maximum value. So if the maximum is 53 and the minimum is 18, then our range is 53 minus 18, which is 31. Okay, and the bigger the range we have, the more spread out our data is. Okay, the smaller the range, the more the data is close to what the median is. Now the interquartile range kind of just looks at the difference between the third and the first quartile. So we're looking at sort of our middle 50% of the data. So to calculate, it's really easy. The third quartile is 34, so we just do 34 minus the first quartile, which is 22. Okay, so the interquartile range is 12. And the benefit of using the interquartile range over the range is because the interquartile range is only going from the third quartile to the first quartile, it doesn't take into account any outliers. So if you've got any pieces of data that are really a lot higher than all of the rest of your data or a lot lower, that's going to have a big impact on your range. So the interquartile range means we avoid the effect of outliers. Okay, so I apologize because I forgot to bring my CAS calculator software home to do this video for you today, so I'm just going to have to show you how to do this using some screenshots, which you might find easier anyway. But once you've put all of your data into a spreadsheet, and you've named your spreadsheet something, then we'll go to Menu, Statistics, Stat Calculations, and One Variable Statistics. And you probably remember, or hopefully you remember, we already did this to calculate the mean. So it's exactly the same thing. You'll get this screen here next, which says number of lists 1. Okay, so we're only dealing with one list of data, so we press OK. And the list the name of whatever you called it will appear here, and everything else you can stay the same. This just tells us what column we're going to put our results in. So if our data is in column A, then it'll just default to the results going in B. And then you get something that looks like this. So you get a whole bunch of data, which I'll kind of explain to you. So we already looked at the mean, so that X bar there is the mean. We looked at the fact that this symbol here means the sum of the X values. Some of the other things we're not going to get to at this time, but you can see I've got my minimum X value here, I've got my first quartile, my median, my third quartile, and my maximum. So you can get your 5-figure summary just by doing these steps. Okay, so that's the end of this video, and now you're hopefully ready to try some questions on this.